Ngiyabongela 5219 yeah Jam Music Production yeah collaboration Uganda South Africa one time man toli Bamugenya tukoze sensory na yo woli lo tamoli Gatati manyete tulina kari Why at a bed La mari Kati yo mutimo go for me say go do David Tuli de kata nationally Anyway Hikobongela at a bed Anyway Everybody sing Shente Money I'm a friend See that body Everybody sing Shente Bobanga to Zidina Manya Shelet and the Ramba Everybody sing Shente Money I'm a friend See that body Some of them are going to funi Shente Ngabongela Off the hook Lexaya Sizingwele Cheche Ingobongeli funi Shente Funi zaga Funi shelete Zifuni intwenga Sifuni istwenke Zifuni ingcence Sifuni ichweba Kuzokhala ukhele kence Ngiyabongela Boom Ngaka nazomzwa Zifuni ichanguru Watathinka ching Inyaka kulendlu yami Uphephu uyadura Uphephu wami ufuna blingi Ufuna blingi Ulavi wami ufuna blingi Umsesana ufuna ringi Money I'm a friend See that body Everybody sing Shente Off the hook Everybody sing Shente Money I'm a friend See that body No laws ufuna Shente Amen sure Yo Imali ngudrubhensi wencube vange sibambe ngobhongwane amalungisa nezihange kutyiwa inyuku xa ingekho uyankantsaza uba matasatasa ilife ikuphathe mantsantsa uqojozwa ngomqaqoba inkunzane uphathwe yinzikinzane ikatirhona eziko iphango lifuna undiko wombathwa zinzingo nezilingo unqume nalo 45 ulibale ngotsibiziko uphila ngophiwa nobiwa nomrev bayonqena ukuthandazela uba impatha uza kumi siphele tu isidima ube ngulwatha noma isister bekulaxaza xa ungena Shente everybody sing Shente Century vibes on the rhythm yeah Uganda South Africa collaboration Off the Hook
Off the hook, you know what I mean? We got another one, Damko King blessing us. Let me put up that beat.
Yeah, man.
You can cut it.
Off the hook, baby. Everybody shook. Yeah, in Ngiyabongela. Yeah. All the way from Tanzania. Yeah. Ooh. Woo. Yeah. Cha. Usikhomo uchangisi. Boom. Sikholeleni izinto zomlambo ingwane noma mlambo nankumzila womnombo umpompoza njengomthombo linqonqoza ithongo yo liyanqonqoza ithongo camagu zivuleke nezincango sibethi ikoro sibethi imbambo masibuyele nembo siflitha amakokorosh ngale hip hop siflitha amakokorosh boom yeah left ukhetsekile sekwenzekile nomculo ukhethekile sisikhalo sikayezekile lihotyisiwe ngixhotyisiwe ndibonisiwe ndihogrisiwe xhotyisiwe yo flows ne rhymes sibasiwe amaqhuqhano hili bancamile isipilini amaxweli isijongile imight isijongile sathana udanile uzulu ungenile uchangisa yo xa sen-assess situation eBryanston to Sandton kona to kona Mamelodi to Cape Town Kanzanga Mdantsane Melville to Cape Town Soweto yo flows ne rhymes sibasiwe amaqhuqhano hill bancamile yo Indlobongela representing Redemption Media Group yeah RMG baby Off the Hook check it sikhuluma namachita bafethu machita Afrika vuka sibheke qula omila amaqula asizivanuka singamaqaqa sikwazi nonqula kugosogoso ipesika imibhongisa izazela amadoda sizixhola sizixhokonxa lo msebenzi uthanda ungcotsha izanocima ngosixhophaxhopha kwizidlwengu sibe rhabaxa eKinshasa Mogadishu naseKhanzanga sinqophisa sinivundlisa sininhluvisa sinivuselela ihamba lenqwelo khwela machita singatya amacwaka amanina entlizisa kuyintsana nababhinqileyo uvalo luyangongoza siyintlekisa kwizizwe neentlanga atshonile amalanga lihlaba umhlaba yo ndithi le nyani yekrarha kwanoncampa eqwaqwa naserhwaqwa Mozambique, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Malawi, Sudan. Sikhuluma namajita siye ku-rape apha eSouth Africa singu-number 1 ku-rape bafethu. That can't be, man, you know. We've got to stop this thing rape. Siphathe our queens, you know, like goddesses that they are. Yeah. Cha. No time to flip-flop, iraka sixubene hip-hop, GBV, femicide, gximvisa full stop. No time to flip-flop, RAPE, suicide, femicide, yeah, gximvisa full stop. No time to flip-flop, indlobongela, nyani ndiyayixabela. Off the hook, everybody shook.
Yeah, you know how it is. It's off. Can you please introduce yourself to the masses out there?
Born Mthetho, Christopher Tshemese. Ndingusikhoma urhudula umhlatyana uZulu uTshangisa umzukulwana wamangqosini nogatyeni umtshana woToku all the way from Eastern Cape. Yeah, man, representing GCE 5219 Mdantsane, stand up.
All right, dope, man, lovely. So, can you please tell the people what makes you the village shrink?
Well, I'm a qualified clinical psychologist by profession. Thankfully, you know, all glory be unto Jah, you know. I went to UWC, studied politics, psychology, qualified, lectured at VETS, you know, 2002. I'm 44 years old. Like, I know I don't look maybe the part, but I'm a clinical psychologist. However, because I grew up in the villages, you know, I'm more for the people because I was raised in the village. I grew up kwi-farmers zaseQumrha, eNgxothwane, eQhurhu, eMount Coke. So my family currently is in Ekwilali, ekuthiwa kuseTyupa, eNxarhuni. So I'm proudly Xhosa, you know, raised and you know, as sisho ndingusikhoma. So I'm a village shrink. Ndingumntu oza nempilo in the village. So it takes a village, you know, to raise a child. So I was raised by the villages. I was raised by the village of Mdantsane. And the world is a global village. So I'm a village shrink. So I'm a shrink for the village, even the global world.
That's dope. And then in Ndlobongela, how did you come up with your alias, the AKA?
Well, I mean, I grew up kwa-7 in Mdantsane. Everyone who knows anything about Mdantsane, I mean, it's the second biggest township in South Africa. It's the largest township in the Eastern Cape. So U7 specifically, we grew up in the time when our older brothers were known as the Supremes, and they actually were supreme in terrorizing and stabbing and murdering people. So that was a negative stigma we adopted, you know. So unfortunately, even growing up, we had to perform the expected masculinity of being aggressive. So, excuse me, even me, I've done things that I'm not proud of because I grew up in that violent area. You know, I am in Ndlobongela because it's also a constant reminder to myself at any given moment, I know what I'm capable of in terms of the violence, but I also want to be a better man, you know, because now I know what I know. Like, I'm older now, I'm a father now, but I'm also a psychologist that is working with Amachita on violence prevention. So calling myself in Ndlobongela is a daily reminder, even though my name is Mthetho, I'm supposed to be law abiding. Mthetho is law. But in Ndlobongela is like an alias that allows for me to express even the things that I don't want to talk about or I can't talk about as a psychologist. But in Ndlobongela also is because inyani ndiyayixabela, like I speak the truth with no compromise.
Yintoni yakwenza utshintshe ufuna ukwenza izinto zibe different nawe ngaba iNdlobongela to the community, terrorize abantu like Al-Qaeda? What was the decision and what influenced you to make that decision?
Look, I mean, I suppose it's growth when Tikela, you know, you grow in your teens, you think you're unstoppable. In your 20s, you think you're unstoppable. And, you know, but you also realize that actually the kind of a man that I want to be. I mean, South Africa is number 1 in rape globally. South Africa is 5 times more than the global average in femicide, the killing of women. Women in this country are being raped by people they love and people they know. On top of that, what we don't talk about in this country is the fact that men, I mean, I think about 52 people get killed every day in this country, and 49 of those people are young black men. No one talks about that. So as men, not only do we kill ourselves in terms of suicide, but we also kill other men and we kill women and children. So I suppose for me, I mean, I represent Redemption Media Group, RMG, you know. All we are about promoting mental health and defending the future. And that defending of the future is also about sharing with boys and young men now and other men what is it that was not right about how we were raised, and also changing to be better fathers. Like I said, I'm a father, I'm an uncle, but also being a psychologist, I was privileged to have been in therapy. So I go and see my therapist every Tuesday. Even now, like I've resumed therapy. I've gone for the 5th session, and you just want to be better. You just want to be better, to be a better influence in society, because like Mandela said, you know, it's on us now. You know, it's us now who are alive. So it starts with me. It's not about what I say. It's also about just seeking redemption, even myself. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not a joke. It's a real thing. I mean, it's hip hop also. You know, like what people don't know is that I used to sing when I was a kid. But now what has happened is that I got frustrated by the profession, because people cannot afford the profession. If you are in Sandton or in Bryanston, you have a private practice. So being a village shrink is also about going into communities, into townships and villages, just talking to Amachita, because there's a lot of things. I mean, that song I performed, Shente, that song is about money. When you don't have money, people laugh at you. You know, as a man, you must provide, right? You have a pressure to provide, but there's high unemployment. So being in Dlobongela is also speaking that kind of truth, so that Amachita, they can make better and healthier decisions, yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. And we're in the mental health month.
Yeah, man.
Can you please tell us about the programs and the things you've been doing around the mental health? You see more Samachita currently, because we know so the suicide rate is quite high. It's the highest, right? Second highest. I'm not sure about the stats. Don't kill me. But Leonard will give us the 411.
In fact, let me start by saying, you know, a lot of people, when you say mental health, a lot of people use the word mental health or the phrase mental health interchangeably with mental illness. If you Google the World Health Organization, WHO, it defines mental health into 3 components. The first component is about pursuing your potential. The first component is about pursuing your potential. The second component is about dealing with your day-to-day challenges. And the third component is about being involved in community development. So in other words, to be mentally healthy is not to have an absence of mental health challenges, no. So I will repeat this. The World Health Organization says to be mentally healthy, 1, you need to be able to pursue your potential. Number 2, you need to deal with your day-to-day challenges. And number 3, you must be involved in community development. Also, WHO, if you go and read further, it tells us that in actual fact, all the countries in the world have not fully invested in the mental health, especially of black people, especially in townships and slums and villages. For instance, if you go and if you want to see a psychologist, you must pay like 1,000 plus. In a country that's number 1 as an unequal society, high unemployment, you know, and poverty. So who is going to afford the services? It's only the people with jobs. So mental health is about being able to deal with your day-to-day challenges, according to component number 2. And what we have seen from the stats from WHO, that was even before COVID, about 900,000 people kill themselves globally every year. 900,000. Think about that. It's like 877,000, number 1. Number 2, the third biggest killer before COVID of the group between 15 to 29 is suicide. WHP died of suicide. Ricky Rick died of suicide. Patrick Shai died of suicide. And men globally, black, white, Indian, colored, whatever, they are the ones who actually commit suicide more than anyone. So one has to ask, why is that the case? Because men get violent when they are hopeless. They get violent, we get violent towards ourselves. So the violence that we commit to other people don't talk about the violence that we commit to ourselves. It's because of the pressures. No one loves a man who can't provide, dog. You go to social networks, I mean, broke nigger is the phrase that women use. But also when you are a man and you don't have means, you know, to provide for your family, you even get blocked access from seeing your own children, right? So there's a lot of stuff that men don't talk about, because also we are raised to be tough and not talk about our vulnerability. So because I studied psychology and I've been seeing people in therapy, but also I have been in therapy since 2002 by choice. As and when I go for therapy. All I'm doing now is to say to Amachita in townships and villages, Bafetu, let's create a safe environment for us to just talk. Let's leave the thing of talking about, there's nothing wrong in you buying me a beer, and having whatever, that's fine. We can watch sport and all that. But also let's talk about, okay, instead of me buying you a bottle of 10,000, whatever, Sikomelane, Siego Chisanyama and all these things, what is happening to you? How are you holding up? Like, are you able to get a job? How can you support each other? So in the past 4 years, since 2018 July actually, I stopped my job. I was earning a lot of money. I don't even want to mention how much I earned, because I was frustrated as a psychologist, because I felt that psychology was not accessible, especially in townships and villages. So all I've been doing now is to go to these different places, in Uganda, in the Western Cape, in the Eastern Cape, and in Gauteng, and meeting men who are doing amazing things. There's a documentary that is coming out, and getting my license back to practice as a psychologist. So I'm also doing my PhD, where I'm focusing on men as fathers. And the reason why we call ourselves Redemption Media Group is that we want to tell stories not of perfection. Amachita, just like me, who have a history where they've done things, whether they are on drugs. Like now, we are actually working in Soweto right now, with Mr. Selvin, with Ammunition. They have endorsed what I'm doing, as hip hop veterans. And thanks and shout out to Osmic as well at Back to the City. We shot at Back to the City, and a lot of everybody that we spoke to, who's an artist who was performing there, is saying, okay, cool, Lina, I had depression. You know what I mean? Or I have a song about depression. So we want to use hip hop to actually influence young people, particularly Amachita, so that at any given moment in time, whenever there's an altercation, you can make healthier choices. So we do violence prevention, we're promoting mental health, and we are saying to be vulnerable and to know that, what, I'm not okay, and to seek help is actually a strength. So that's what I'm about, man.
And what do you think about the drug pandemic in South Africa, Malokshini, in the cities? Because that's a form of mental health. Because once you're hooked, you're not capable to do certain things that you have to do.
In fact, that's interesting. I mean, it's about dealing. Remember, I said in the definition of World Health Organization, the second component is about dealing with the day-to-day challenges. Excuse me. The interesting thing about South Africa is that almost everybody is on drugs. Almost everybody is on a mental, on a mind altering substance, whether it's alcohol. If you look at the groove, if you look at on social media, just go on social media, how much advertising we do of alcohol. People are on the groove. The obsession with having a good time is also us trying to cope, man. Things are tough in this country. This country is a country of contradictions. We have the best constitution in the world, right? Everybody says so. But we've got the most violent. We are the most unequal society. People are frustrated. People have lost hope. So there's generally hopelessness across the board. So I understand why people are on drugs. I'm not condemning them. That's also what we are about at Redemption Media Group. And interestingly, my business partner, Bongani Ndlovu, recently won, they did like a docu-series on drugs in Gauteng, Kick It, Season 2, with Kabelo Mabalane. They won an award, a SAFTA award. That's a mental health challenge. But everybody just play. I mean, our families are unable to deal with the Amachita who are using drugs. And again, if you look at also across the country, you find that people are going to post videos of men who are stealing abasibabiza amapara. Those are our brothers, those are our sons, those are our cousins, those are our people who are doing all these things that they are doing for whatever reason, but no one is thinking about how to help them. What has been easy to do in the past 4 or 5 years I've been observing is that there is a mushrooming of community forum where people are getting killed. So I often say to people, I often ask this question, until when are we going to kill our young brothers and sisters who are called Amapara, who are on drugs? And I mean, they are not different from people who are using cocaine. They are not different from people who are abusing alcohol. The only difference is that they are using it. So it's also for me. I'm interested more in if somebody wants to stop to use drugs and wants to redeem themselves and wants to be a better father, a better son, how can they contribute in the community? So that's all we are about. We are not about judging people. I'm not even interested in people saying, oh, this is why I'm using drugs. I mean, I can't help everybody. I need to look after myself. I take alcohol. I do drink wine and beer, but at the same time, I need to be responsible about it. So we can't hide and say, oh, okay, cool, I'm just taking. I often ask Amajita, okay, you're unemployed, that's cool, I understand. But how is smoking tooth going to help you? So it's also about Amajita taking responsibility. I mean, Celestine Tuli Putwami said some years back, South African men don't have an agenda except for yellow bones and chisanyamas. Let's think as a Machita, what is it that we are doing at us? We are the ones who are terrorizing our own communities. Back in the day, about Clever used to leave the hood, go elsewhere and work and come back and improve the hood. But now if you look, even in my own family, I've got young people who are using drugs. And I can tell you, we will kill them if they are gonna terrorize and kill people in my family because of their drugs. So it's so difficult. I was talking to Ritondo of Tremanskap. He was like, yo, we even have who's on drugs, who's doing all these things, and he doesn't want help. So everyone is struggling. I know somebody knows somebody somewhere who uses drugs. So, but all I'm saying is, what do you expect if a country is unemployed? I mean, they've got high unemployment, poverty, and inequality. So that's why I'm saying I'm not condemning anyone. I mean, in Soweto, we're working with Amachita under the banner of Men in Prayer. These guys, I think since 2010, they've been meeting at 6 o'clock every Saturday. 6 o'clock, I went to their camp, and these are like guys who have been using drugs, who are like, yo, you know what? I've used drugs, I've hurt my family, and now I've got kids, and I'm realizing that I can't continue doing this shit. So it's all about recognizing that it takes a village to raise a child, but I also argue that it takes a village to heal the broken of the village.
Oh man, much appreciated. It's off the hook. That's how we do. We about to wrap it out. Can you please tell the people where they can find you, what you're doing, and your socials?
All right, just check at Indlobongela on Instagram, at Indlobongela it's a Facebook page on at Indlobongela Facebook page, at Indlobongela on Instagram, at Village Shrink on Twitter. Mthetho Tshemese is my personal account on Facebook, and I know people have been waiting for the debut album that I really. It's like Dr. Dre's what's that album? What is it? Detox. So my album has become like we had the artwork, but the business side of things didn't work out. So I was like, okay, cool, let's regroup. So the album is definitely coming out pretty soon. By the time you release this episode, probably the album will be out and it's gonna shock everyone.
That's dope. Bro, thank you for coming through. Tamaku.
Off the hook.
Off the hook. We out, baby.
Everybody
you know
shook.
what I mean? Peace. Peace out.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that felt nice.